Yi Chen was just doing his job when his world suddenly imploded. He caught his wife cheating on him. Instead of feeling ashamed, she blamed and accused him, saying it was all his fault. She even kicked him out of the house without hesitation. What she didn't know was that Yi Chen was the heir to a powerful and mysterious family. He had only been living a low-profile life. Now he had returned to claim his inheritance, and when he did, she and everyone would eventually regret every single life choice they made. The story begins with our protagonist. He was just grinding his bread with his side job when, boom, life hit him with the ultimate plot twist. He walked in on his wife of 3 years cheating with another man. The realization slapped him so hard it felt unreal. In the chaos, he even dropped the takeout he was holding. The dude she was with instantly clocked what was going on and casually asked if he was the useless husband Jiao always complained about. That one line brought back every single moment, all the humiliation he endured from her family for the past 3 years. Our guy had been lacking non-stop, thinking Jiao was just strict. The whole time she was riding another man. Jiao then switched to gaslighting Pro Max mode, blaming him for being useless and saying that's why she had to look elsewhere. And the guy she cheated with? Fang Chao, young master of the Fang family, one of the richest families in Yuncheng, with billions in assets. She straight up said only a man like him was worthy of her. Our protagonist just stood there watching the shameless duo, and to make it worse, they even demanded an apology for interrupting. When Fang Chao tried to make another move on Jiao, our protagonist grabbed him by the chin. Jiao exploded, yelling at him and demanding he leave before she called hotel security. At that moment, our protagonist began reflecting. His marriage was arranged by his grandfather, and when he first met Jiao, he truly thought they'd live a happy life together. Turns out that was all in his head. Before leaving, he told her calmly that he hoped she wouldn't regret her actions today. Jiao had zero clue what was coming and just scoffed at him. The moment he stepped outside, he received a call from the Ye family residence. An old man on the other end addressed him as the third young master and informed him that his 3-year live-in son-in-law training arc was officially over. Yup, it was all a test, a lesson designed by his family to teach him about society. Now, it was time for him to step up and take his role as CEO in managing one of the family's major businesses. The old man even asked if he planned to keep Jiao as his wife. Our protagonist laughed and said she belongs to the streets and didn't deserve it. Later that day, Jiao returned home late. She was surprised to see Ye Chen parking and asked if he planned to destroy their marriage just because she cheated. He asked if she really thought cheating was a small thing. She responded by asking if he wanted an apology, reminding him that he lived in her house, ate her food, and survived because of her family. That was the final trigger. Yi Chen snapped. He released 3 years' worth of bottled-up humiliation, recounting how her entire family mistreated him. Yet he endured it because he believed in the person he married. But today, that belief died. Her cheating was the final straw. Enough was enough. He told her he wanted a divorce. She got furious, warning him about the consequences and claiming everything happening was his fault. When she mentioned her family's support, Yi Chen calmly said he didn't need it anymore. So she agreed to the divorce, but not before saying she regretted ever marrying someone as useless as him. He suggested they file the next day. She refused, saying it was her grandmother's birthday and a major family event. Plus, she needed to discuss the divorce with her family first. After parking, Yi Chen told her she could take all the time she needed. As he walked away, she made one last manipulative attempt, saying he'd regret this and eventually come crawling back. He ignored her completely. Moments later, luxury cars pulled up. Men in black stepped out one by one under the pouring rain to greet their young master. One of them offered him an umbrella. Yi Chen refused. Seeing their confusion, he simply said he needed the rain to clear his head. Hearing this, one of the men in black puts on his coat. Meanwhile, our protagonist takes one last look at his past before leaving. As they ride, onlookers begin commenting on the convoy of Rolls-Royces passing by. Even his ex-wife is surprised and wonders if some big shot just pulled up, unaware that it's actually our protagonist. Inside the car, our protagonist gives us some context about his world. When people talk about mysterious and powerful families, they usually mention the Rothschilds, the DuPonts, and the Morgans. But in truth, the most mysterious of them all is his own family, the Yi family. These people don't just possess assets worth tens or even hundreds of billions. They're so powerful that they've managed to remain low-key and completely undetected. As a candidate for succession, our protagonist had to undergo brutal training. He mastered martial arts before the age of 5, completed his studies in business and several languages overseas before turning 11, and lastly, in order to shape his character, he had to marry Jia Yao from a second-tier wealthy family. His test was to endure humiliation and resist the urge to reveal his true identity. Thinking back, he admits this was a test he accepted of his own free will, but now the trials are finally over. He has returned to inherit what is rightfully his. Sadly, his wife won't be part of it. We skip to the next morning at Yunqing Jishan Villa. It's Jia Yao's grandmother's birthday. The entire Wang family gathers to wish her, and everything is going perfectly, until someone asks about our protagonist. Jia Yao responds that he went to work. This immediately draws mockery from the rest of the family. Wang Yuan wonders if he's still delivering food, while Wang Xiaoji adds that our protagonist ruins their family's image. Regardless, Grandma Wang demands that her granddaughter bring him over immediately. That's when Jia Yao announces their divorce, saying that's the reason he won't come. Grandma Wang explodes, demanding to know who gave them permission, since the engagement was arranged by her late husband. Because of this, Jia Yao pretends to break down, revealing that our protagonist cheated on her. She absolutely cannot let her family know she was the unfaithful one. Since our protagonist is absent and only a live-in son-in-law, it's easy to shift the blame onto him. Of course, her grandmother falls for it instantly. However, before she can proceed further, Xiaoji speaks up. Looking at Jia Yao, he tells everyone that it's actually her fault. After all, they've been married for years and showed no signs of intimacy, so it's only natural for a man to look elsewhere. Even though his logic makes some sense, Grandma Wang insists that this doesn't justify infidelity. She demands that our protagonist be brought in immediately to face punishment from the Wang family. Hearing this, Jia Yao grabs her phone and calls him. Our protagonist answers, but the moment Jia Yao mentions her grandmother wants to see him, he hangs up without hesitation, leaving her in shock. Grandma Wang grows even more furious upon hearing he has no intention of coming. Turning to Xiaoji, she orders him to bring our protagonist back immediately. He accepts, secretly planning to teach our protagonist a lesson along the way. Once Xiaoji leaves, Grandma Wang shifts to a serious matter, the real reason she gathered everyone. She reveals that just yesterday, Huasheng Group was acquired, and a new CEO will be taking over. That company happens to belong to our protagonist. Additionally, the Wang family's Dingcheng Real Estate has long cooperated with Huasheng Group and currently has an ongoing multi-million contract with them. In other words, building a good relationship with this new CEO is mandatory. Unfortunately for them, that CEO is our protagonist. At the same time, a staff member approaches and wonders why the young master is dressed like that. In response, our protagonist reveals that today is his last day working as a delivery man under contract. In his mind, he notes that now is not the time to reveal his identity. It would be easier to observe things quietly and identify his enemies first. Moments later, Wang Xiaojie calls, asking where he is. Our protagonist gives him his location. Xiaoji receives it and tells him to wait. He's on his way. Upon arriving, Xiaoji instructs Ye Chen to come with him, insisting that his grandmother wants to see him. Our protagonist replies sternly that even if Xiaoji's grandmother begs, he is still getting a divorce. Xiaoji angrily asks what he's talking about and adds that his grandmother is furious and wants to punish him. When our protagonist asks why, Xiaoji reveals the rumors of his alleged affair with another woman, saying he deserves punishment. Our protagonist immediately understands. Jia Yao must have said this. This causes him to laugh, and Xiaoji naturally asks why he's laughing. Suddenly, our protagonist's expression changes. He realizes there's more to Jia Yao than he previously thought. Meanwhile, Xiaoji is shaken. He never knew our protagonist could make such a terrifying expression. That gaze, it was as if he were looking at someone insignificant. Because of this, Xiaoji grows furious and agitated. However, our protagonist calmly tells him he isn't coming. Xiaoji makes the mistake of attacking, thinking our protagonist is still the same trash he used to bully. Our protagonist moves swiftly. First, he sweeps Xiaoji's legs, then immediately follows up with a kick to the face. Holding his bruised cheek, Xiaoji calls him trash and pulls out a knife. He tries stabbing our protagonist several times, but our protagonist dodges with ease, before disarming him and landing a clean right straight to his face. Our protagonist uses this opportunity to tell him that he is not the trash Xiaoji thinks he is, nor will he continue acting like one. With that, he continues his delivery, while Xiaoji yells that this isn't over. Shifting back to Grandma Wang, she complains about how long her grandson is taking, but the next second, she's stunned to see his swollen face. She immediately demands to know what happened. Xiaoji begins wailing like a child, claiming our protagonist beat him up. Xiaoji's father, Wang Zhicheng, is furious upon seeing this. When Xiaoji suggests reporting the matter to the police, Grandma Wang shows a nervous expression. She doesn't want to involve the authorities. It would be too embarrassing if word got out that her grandson was beaten by a live-in son-in-law. Turning to her son, she instructs him to call a group of people to teach our protagonist a lesson. Moments later, our protagonist is still working when a group of men appears. When they ask to confirm his identity, he instantly understands they were sent by the Wang family. Since today is his last day on the job, he doesn't mind entertaining them. Suddenly, the men charge at him at the same time. We already know what's about to happen. And soon enough, he continues his delivery, leaving the trash behind. At the hotel, Xiaoji's dad reports the situation with our protagonist to his mom. She is shocked. She demands to know if no one could really handle our protagonist, while others whisper, not expecting him to be skilled in martial arts. Just then, a butler announces the arrival of a guest, the Yancheng regional agent of Tuan Tuan Delivery. This man also happens to be our protagonist's boss, so Xiaoji's dad gets an idea. When Ma Kun enters with a bright smile and an expensive gift, a 1990 romance comedy, he wishes Grandma a happy birthday. The old woman thanks him, but he notices that her smile doesn't reach her eyes. When he asks if something is bothering her, she gives a vague response. That's when Xiaoji's dad steps in and explains the situation involving our protagonist. Ma Kun reacts with shock upon hearing that our protagonist cheated and assaulted Xiaoji. In response, he expresses eagerness to help but also mentions his lack of personal connections to properly teach our protagonist a lesson. Hearing this, Xiaoji's dad tells him that, on the contrary, he can actually do something about it. He also informs Ma Kun that our protagonist happens to work in his company. Eager to impress, Ma Kun immediately understands what to do. He quickly dials his phone and places an order, specifically requesting our protagonist as the delivery man. A few minutes later, our protagonist receives a call from Ma Kun about a delivery order to Wanhao Hotel. He initially wants to wait outside with the delivery, but his boss insists he bring it inside. Our protagonist realizes Wanhao Hotel is the perfect place for a birthday banquet, meaning his ex-wife and her family are likely there. To avoid going inside, he tells his boss that the hotel restricts deliveries. In other words, he cannot enter. Hearing this, Ma Kun tells him to wait at the door instead. Later, our protagonist arrives and feels like he's walking into a trap. As expected, everyone is lying in wait to ambush him. His boss is the first to speak, ordering him to remove his uniform. In response, our protagonist demands an explanation. Xiaoji, with his cheek still swollen, informs him of Ma Kun's identity. Feeling smug, Ma Kun tells him that if he doesn't believe it, he can call the manager who hired him. Moments later, our protagonist receives a call from his manager, informing him that he has been fired and asking what he did to offend President Ma Kun. Our protagonist only feels disappointed because he wanted to end his last day on the job peacefully. But now that's ruined. Left with no choice, he takes off his uniform. Xiaoji secretly records him and comments that our protagonist looks like a dog. Unfortunately for Ma Kun, he has angered the wrong person. Our protagonist calmly asks about his company contract that is expiring this year. Ma Kun is momentarily stunned and wonders how he knows about it. With a smile, our protagonist replies that Ma Kun shouldn't bother thinking about renewal anymore. Still clueless, Ma Kun begins bragging about his connections, but mid-rant, Grandma Wang cuts in, telling our protagonist to kneel. She sits composed while stating his crimes, assaulting her grandson and cheating on her granddaughter. Our protagonist mocks her inwardly and asks why he should kneel. In response, she reminds him of the promise he made 3 years ago, that if he ever caused harm to the Wang family, he would face punishment. Our protagonist agrees to face punishment, but only if it is justified. Hearing this, the old woman orders them to bring out the dragon ruler. It is known that being struck with it can cause serious injuries, and repeated blows can even permanently disfigure the face. The woman demands that our protagonist be struck 20 times. Out of concern, Jiayao's dad takes the ruler, insisting he should be the one to do it, since he failed in his duty as a father. However, his daughter stops him. She insists she should be the one to do it, since our protagonist is her husband. Seeing this, our protagonist comments that his wife is really something. First she cheated, then lied, and now she wants to hit him. Still, she insists on doing it, thinking to herself that our protagonist belongs to her. If anyone is going to punish him, it has to be her. Before she can act, Xiaoji quickly grabs a ruler and immediately swings at our protagonist. Using Xiaoji's own momentum against him, our protagonist twists his arm, causing the ruler to strike Xiaoji instead. Everyone watches in stunned silence, realizing that our protagonist has just struck the legitimate heir of the Wang family. Seeing this, Grandma Wang decides to involve the police. That's when our protagonist reminds her that everyone saw Xiaoji grab the ruler and attack first. He was merely defending himself. Although what he said is correct, he is still expected to face punishment. In response, our protagonist says he is willing to face punishment, but only if he actually did something wrong. Enraged, Grandma Wang asks if cheating on her daughter and assaulting her grandson aren't enough reasons. Our protagonist replies furiously, saying he loved Jiayao for 3 years, and in return, she cheated on him with Fang Chao. If they doubt him, they should simply contact Jiawa Hotel and check the records. Fang Chao's history of chasing Jiayao is common knowledge, yet most people can't believe that someone with such a pure image could lie. Trying to spin the narrative, Jiayao anxiously claims they were only discussing business, reminding everyone that their real estate project needed funding. But damn, that's the worst comeback possible. As if on cue, our protagonist asks if she thinks they're all kids. Did she and Fang Chao really need a hotel room to talk business? And right on cue, the man of the hour makes his appearance. Fang Chao looks puzzled as he notices everyone staring at him. Jiayao hurriedly explains the situation and urges him to clear the misunderstanding, insisting they were only talking business. Fang Chao plays along, thinking our protagonist must have balls of steel to expose his affair like this. He doubles down, accusing our protagonist of making claims without evidence. His confidence stems from the fact that our protagonist didn't record anything or take pictures. After explaining the situation, he claims that when he ordered takeout, our protagonist misunderstood what he saw, dropped the food, and caused him to leave a bad review. Coincidentally, Ma-kun can confirm this by checking the delivery records. When this is confirmed, everyone directs hostile gazes toward our protagonist, but he remains calm. He then asks if no one is curious why he would drop the food in the first place. His wife claims he wasn't focused on work and was probably stressed. Our protagonist just laughs, low-key embarrassed that he expected anything from her. Anyway, he turns to the matriarch and asks if she has proof of him cheating. Seeing her daughter has no evidence, she suggests dropping the accusation of infidelity. However, the issue of him hitting Xiaojie still stands. Our protagonist calmly explains that he was only defending himself, and even the camera footage would prove his innocence. In response, the old woman accuses him of talking back. He humbly explains that he has been in the family long enough for them to know he doesn't cause trouble. This time, he only reacted in self-defense. However, there is one thing he requests: a divorce. Initially, Grandma Wang never liked the arranged marriage. She only agreed out of respect for her late husband. Meanwhile, her granddaughter is the top beauty of Yuncheng, desired by many. Her face twists in anger as she declares that from this moment on, she will no longer follow her late husband's wishes, and she agrees to the divorce. On top of that, our protagonist is kicked out of the family. Her son immediately gestures for the waiter to bring drinks. Everyone toasts to Jiao's freedom, and to finally getting rid of trash like our protagonist. Since it has come to this point, Jiao's mother reveals a little secret. She explains that in these 3 years, her daughter has never even held hands with our protagonist, and they slept in separate beds. In other words, in their eyes, her daughter is still pure. Our protagonist scoffs, because we all know the truth. Grabbing a glass of wine, he toasts his ex-wife, wishing her exactly what she deserves. In response, she tells him that if he kneels, she might consider asking her grandmother to reconsider. Yeah, that's never happening. If anything, she should be the one begging, if she knew what was coming. In front of everyone, our protagonist declares that she doesn't deserve him, and that she's completely worthless. His ex-wife becomes furious after hearing this. She turns to her grandmother like a spoiled child, insisting that she do something. Her cousin, still holding his swollen cheek, chimes in. Seeing this, the matriarch assures them that the Wang family is not easily bullied. Addressing everyone, She speaks about how her family has been a respectable force in Yuncheng for decades. Since our protagonist dared to mess with her grandchildren, she fears that if she lets this slide, others might act against the Wang family in the future. What she wants is for all the important figures present to make life difficult for our protagonist. Everyone understands that the Wang matriarch intends to cut off his livelihood, and they begin debating whether they should get involved. Seizing the moment, Fang Chao speaks up as a representative of the Fang family. He promises that no hotel or motel in Yuncheng will ever hire our protagonist. Meanwhile, his true intentions are revealed. He plans to continue sleeping with Jiao and hopes to make our protagonist beg him someday. Following suit, others begin blacklisting our protagonist from working in their industries. Ma Kun also joins in, stating that our protagonist will be cut off from the delivery business. Yi Chen, calm as ever, asks if there is anyone else who wants to cut him off too. The CEO of a KTV chain also bans him from working in any of his establishments. Nonetheless, Xiaoji points out that our protagonist is skilled in martial arts, so there is still a chance he could work as a bodyguard. This creates another issue. With so many wealthy people around, it would be difficult to completely destroy his means of survival. What they need is someone who can influence them. And as if on cue, everyone turns their attention to the lady who has just entered the banquet. Xiaoji's father immediately recognizes President Qin and apologizes for not greeting her earlier. Meanwhile, Ma Kun whispers to Xiaoji's father to introduce him to Miss Qin. The man is surprised and slightly ashamed, thinking Ma Kun must be too low class not to recognize her, but he introduces them anyway. She is not only the vice president of the Washeng Group, but also regarded as the top beauty of Yuncheng. In addition, she recently signed a deal with the company's new mysterious CEO. Ironically, that CEO is our protagonist, and he realizes they are unknowingly talking about him. Attempting to flatter her, Xiaoji's father speaks politely, while Ma Kun joins in, assuming someone with such beauty must know many influential people. Unfortunately, she immediately clocked what they were hinting at, speaking as if she had reached her current position by spreading her legs. First, Jiao claimed she was discussing business with Fang Chao in a hotel room, and now Miss Qin claims she climbed to her position without ever getting nailed. Either she operates outside the matrix, or she's not playing by the same script. Regardless, Xiaoji's father insists she take action to cut off our protagonist's livelihood. He is confident she will agree, considering their working relationship and the benefits his family has given her. However, she doesn't respond. Instead, she casually takes out a cigarette. Immediately, all the men rush forward with lighters, including Xiaoji's father and his son. Ignoring them completely, she gestures for our protagonist to come over. Our protagonist finds her behavior interesting and asks what she wants. She asks him to light her cigarette. Everyone watches in shock, unable to understand what is happening. Even more shocking, our protagonist tells her he doesn't have a lighter. Now the men think he must be crazy for refusing something most would die for. President Qin also finds his response interesting and asks for his name. When he doesn't reply, she asks again. He responds by asking if she's deaf. Didn't she hear Xiaoji mention him earlier? His boldness enrages the others, but Miss Qin dismisses it. She explains that he shares the same name as the current CEO, and so she wants to give him a way out. Leaning in, she gently suggests that he become her personal bodyguard. Because of this, people begin whispering, wondering if she is protecting him or has taken a personal liking to him. Meanwhile, his ex-wife begins to feel curious after seeing another woman show interest in him. Seeing that our protagonist shares a similar name with the new mysterious CEO, Xiaoji's dad asks if Miss President could reveal his full name. Miss Qin responds politely, saying he chooses to remain anonymous, while thinking to herself that she doesn't even know much about him either. At the same time, our protagonist understands that she truly doesn't know his identity. Still, he calmly asks how she plans to give him a way out. She tells him that as long as he kneels and apologizes to the Wang family, she will consider letting him off. In addition, she offers to make him her personal bodyguard with a massive salary of 200,000 a year. Hearing her offer, the onlookers begin whispering among themselves, realizing she might have taken a liking to him, considering her surprisingly simple demand. The Wang matriarch's face grows serious as she contemplates the situation, while her granddaughter urges her to do something since Miss Qin is going against their earlier agreement. However, the grandmother doesn't react. She is beginning to understand how Miss Chin managed to rise to her current position. Miss Chin's offer isn't meant to offend the Wang family. With her looks and status, she believes no man would refuse her. Unfortunately for her, our protagonist is built differently. He refuses her offer without hesitation. Miss Chin is shocked by his audacity. A mere live-in son-in-law dares to turn her down? She demands that he repeat what he just said. Our protagonist suddenly grabs her by the ear and repeats his words clearly, leaving her utterly stunned. Xiaoji's dad immediately tries to reprimand him, but our protagonist shrugs and says he only did what she asked, since she seemed to be having trouble hearing. Feeling humiliated, Miss Chin coldly declares that as a representative of the Washeng group, she will ensure that our protagonist won't be able to find work anywhere in the city. Because of this, everyone begins mocking him, while his ex-wife smiles mischievously, thinking that everything happening is his fault. Ignoring the crowd, Yi Chen asks if she truly represents her company. She confidently confirms. That's when our protagonist reminds her that she is only a vice president, not the CEO. In other words, she doesn't have the authority to speak for or represent the entire company. In response, she reveals something no one saw coming. She announces that she and the CEO are dating. Meanwhile, the real CEO himself stares at her in shock. Even more impressive is how she lies with a completely straight face. Now this changes everything. If the CEO is truly involved with Miss Chin, then technically she could represent the company. After all, only someone mysterious and powerful would suit her so-called aesthetics. Seizing the moment, Xiaojie's dad speaks up, suggesting she should have told them earlier, while secretly thinking how beneficial this development is. If Miss Chin and the CEO are really together, then both the real estate contract and their connection to the CEO are practically secured. Acting shy, Miss Chin says her boyfriend is serious and mostly focused on business, so she didn't want rumors spreading about their relationship. Yi Chen finds her extremely amusing. She brags boldly, yet claims she's afraid of rumors, so she invents an excuse on the spot. Looking at our protagonist, she demands to know why he's laughing. In response, he curiously asks how they even got together in the first place. After all, she previously said the CEO was too mysterious, so how exactly did she manage to catch his eye? She confidently claims they truly like each other and that the CEO was the one who confessed first. According to her, he even held a grand confession ceremony to ask her to be his girlfriend. At this point, she's clearly talking nonsense, and our boy realizes there's no point arguing with a professional liar. Turning to his ex-wife, he suggests they go to the bureau to get their divorce certificate. Xiaoji suddenly stops them, suggesting that since they've come this far, they should eat first. Then he turns to Ma Kun and mocks our protagonist, calling him a dog. He proudly mentions that he recorded the embarrassing moment when our protagonist lost his job. Ma Kun agrees and tells Xiaoji to forward the video to him so he can re-watch it whenever he's bored. This fool has made mistake after mistake, constantly offending our protagonist. Now he can no longer let it slide. Our protagonist immediately takes out his phone and dials a number. It turns out he's connected to someone powerful, the overseas CEO of Tuan Delivery. He calmly instructs his butler to get in touch with him and revoke the Yuncheng agency, the very same branch where Ma Kun operates as the current president. His butler agrees and even adds that Master Wu Xiaohong, the overseas CEO, has always been eager to please him. Our protagonist nods and tells his butler to arrange a meeting so his grandfather can personally thank him. The moment he hangs up, the entire banquet hall falls into eerie silence. Xiaojie breaks the silence with loud laughter, mocking him for acting like some big shot. Ma Kun, as usual, backs him up. Even his ex-wife joins in, sneering at the mention of his grandpa, thinking he's completely delusional. Meanwhile, Miss Chin remains calm, quietly observing. She begins to suspect that something isn't right. As if on cue, Ma Kun receives a call from the overseas CEO. Thinking it's perfect timing, he smugly assumes they're about to discuss renewing his contract. But in the very next moment, his face drains of color when Wu Xiaohong informs him that his contract has been revoked. Ma Kun can't believe his contract has actually been revoked. Worse still, there are many people watching, especially Miss Chin. Not wanting anyone to find out, he quickly forces a performance, loudly thanking the CEO as if everything went perfectly. He knows that if people discover the truth, he'll be humiliated and kicked out of the party. Poor Ma Kun is on the verge of breaking down, while the CEO on the other end of the line wonders if he has gone insane. The man was just informed that his contract was revoked. So why is he thanking him so profusely? Confused, the CEO simply ends the call, leaving Ma-kun wondering who could have asked the CEO to fire him in the first place. Xiaoji, clearly lacking a few brain cells, assumes from Ma-kun's tone that his renewal went well. Ma-kun nods anxiously, playing along. While everyone else raises their glasses and celebrates, poor Ma-kun is drowning in silent despair, to the point that even our protagonist notices and almost feels bad for him. Miss Chin also observes Ma-kun's strange expression and asks why he looks like he's about to cry. He quickly makes up an excuse, saying the drink was just a bit too strong. Crossing his arms, our protagonist mockingly says that if he wants to boast, he should at least do it properly. Everyone, except Xiaoji, can tell something is wrong. Sure enough, Ma-kun eventually blurts out the truth, claiming that even if his contract was revoked, it's the company's fault and has nothing to do with our protagonist. Our protagonist merely scoffs, saying he's too lazy to explain and has no interest in making unnecessary enemies. When Ma-kun calls him a mere delivery man, our protagonist's earlier words suddenly echo in everyone's mind. They begin to wonder, does he actually have something to do with Ma-kun's contract being revoked? And if that's the case, would his next targets be the people who opposed him? Sensing the shift in the atmosphere, Jiayo's mom quickly speaks up, reminding everyone that our protagonist is trash, a mere live-in son-in-law. As for his so-called grandfather, just a poor countryside farmer with no proper education. That immediately changes the crowd's opinion. After all, if he were really some big shot, why would he become a live-in son-in-law and endure being treated like a dog for 3 whole years? During this time, the Wang matriarch quietly calls her son. In the very next moment, Ma-kun is dragged out of the birthday banquet, along with his expensive gift. Seeing this, our protagonist finally understands why his wife cheated on him. This family is obsessed with image and appearances. Regardless, the birthday banquet continues as if nothing happened. Meanwhile, Jiayo suggests they eat first before finalizing the divorce. Our protagonist agrees and calmly sits down to eat, but just as he reaches for a dish, his spoon clinks against someone else's. The person turns out to be Wang Yuan, who immediately looks irritated that her spoon touched his. Our protagonist glances at the dish she was reaching for. Apparently, it's a soup rumored to help with breast enhancement. With that in mind, he casually tells her she doesn't need it anymore, instantly making her furious. Seeing her reaction, he simply tells her to forget what he said, but Wang Yuan realizes something. His attitude toward her has completely changed. Turning to her grandmother, she suggests that our protagonist shouldn't be allowed to eat at the same table since he didn't bring any gift. The matriarch shakes her head, saying he is technically still family until the divorce is finalized. But Wang Yuan argues again, he didn't even bring a gift. Hearing this, our protagonist decides to give her a birthday present. After all, 3 years ago, if she hadn't permitted the marriage, he would have failed his test. And since he's officially leaving the Wang family, it's only natural he leaves something behind. With that, he makes a call and tells someone to bring his gift to the Wanhao Hotel. His ex-wife is surprised, saying he's suddenly grown a conscience, but quickly adds that the Wang family doesn't accept trash. She mocks him, wondering what he could possibly give her grandmother, and even tells him to cancel it so she can arrange something herself. But our protagonist is completely done with her and ignores her entirely. 10 minutes later, a dispatch delivery man enters the hotel. A staff member tries to stop him, insisting the venue is reserved for a private event. However, the man explains that he's here to deliver a gift. When he announces the delivery, Xiaoji looks confused and asks why another delivery guy is here, reminding him that it's his grandmother's birthday. The man replies that a gentleman driving a Rolls-Royce got stuck in traffic and paid him to deliver the gift on his behalf. Hearing this, Xiaoji accepts the package, already trying to guess who the mysterious sender might be. The moment he opens it, his face freezes in shock. Inside lies a piece of pure, exquisite ice jade, flawless and radiant. The quality alone is worth at least 10 million. Now the entire room falls silent. Everyone begins to wonder who would send such an outrageously expensive gift. Meanwhile, the real sender sits calmly among them, casually observing the stunned crowd. While some guests admire the bracelet, others urge the matriarch to introduce them to the mysterious sender. The matriarch honestly admits she has no idea who sent it. Since everyone invited by the Wang family is already present, there's no obvious way to identify the sender. This sparks an idea in Wang Yuan's head. She boldly claims the bracelet must have come from one of her admirers. As expected, some of the guests immediately swallow that explanation without question. Her father agrees, believing his daughter must have caught the eye of some mysterious rich young master. If that's the case, Miss Chin even congratulates him on gaining a future son-in-law. Watching all this, our protagonist can only shake his head. The Wang family would rather wildly assume the gift came from one of Wang Yuan's admirers than consider the possibility that it came from him. Regardless, he turns to Jia Yao and asks if she's done eating. Since she's finished, and he has already given his gift, it's time to finalize the divorce. His ex-wife is stunned and asks when exactly he gave her grandmother a gift. In response, our protagonist calmly points at the bracelet. That instantly causes Xiaoji's dad to explode in rage. He calls him useless for claiming someone else's gift as his own, and adds that he could never afford something worth that much in his entire lifetime. His children join in. Wang Yuan insists it came from her admirer, while Xiaojie accuses him of trying to ruin their family's reputation. Seeing the situation spiral, Jia Yao suggests they leave quickly. Perhaps she's finally tired of him embarrassing her. Before leaving, our protagonist looks at the Wang matriarch and says that, for what it's worth, he has already given her his birthday gift. She immediately tells him to stop bragging and leave, thinking about how he constantly makes her lose face. As they walk out, Xiaoji tells our protagonist to leave the city altogether, since he has no family or means of livelihood. Our protagonist calmly replies that whether he leaves the city or stays is none of his or his family's business. The moment he steps out of the hotel, Fang Chao appears with Jie Yao in his BMW. Mockingly, Fang Chao suggests he should ride his bike instead, since he isn't worthy of sitting in his car. Ignoring them, our protagonist stops a taxi and asks to be taken to the bureau. At the bureau office, their divorce certificate is finally handed to them. Our protagonist notes that this marks the end of his 3-year training as a live-in son-in-law. His next mission is business. From now on, he will focus entirely on his career. With that in mind, he tells his ex-wife that he is no longer a live-in son-in-law, he is now a discarded son-in-law. Jia Yao mocks him, saying that title sounds even more embarrassing than the previous one. In response, he calmly clarifies what he really means. She is dead to him. With that, he boards a cab and leaves her standing there. Furious. Still unwilling to let things go, Jia Yao and Fang Chao decide to follow him to see if he plans to leave Yuncheng City. Fang Chao steps on the gas, assuming he's heading to the train station. After all, with all his ties cut and his finances supposedly empty, leaving the city should be his only option, unless he plans to survive on air. However, Jia Yao wears a worried expression, not because she cares about him, but because his earlier words unsettled her. Suddenly, Fang Chao realizes he's not heading toward the train station. Jia Yao then asks if he's going to the airport. Fang Chao shakes his head. Their current route leads to Shu District, meaning he doesn't plan on leaving the city at all. Because of this, Fang Chao feels slightly offended. After all, if our protagonist plans to stay and find a job, he can easily blacklist him from any hotel below 4 stars using his connections. Soon, they arrive at a 4-star hotel. From outside, they watch him walk in and assume he's applying for a waiter position. But this doesn't make sense. Jia Yao knows that everyone from her grandmother's birthday banquet has likely blacklisted him already, unless he underestimates the Wang family's influence. To be safe, Fang Chao makes a call to the hotel owner, intending to block him from getting hired. However, what he learns next shocks him. Turning to Jia Yao, he informs her that our protagonist didn't apply for a job, he checked in as a guest. Furthermore, he wonders if this means he actually plans to stay there. Jia Yao immediately rejects the idea. The hotel costs around 8,000 per night. During the divorce, she took his bank cards, and she's certain he doesn't have much money left. Because of this, Fang Chao suggests they go inside and see for themselves. Inside the lobby of the Lake Hotel, they ask the receptionist about our protagonist's check-in. The couple is stunned to discover that he booked 7 nights, totaling over 50,000. Fang Chao immediately wonders if he secretly stashed some money away. Jia Yao then asks what type of room he booked. The receptionist calmly replies, the presidential suite. The presidential suite costs around 85,000 per night. That means our protagonist paid over 560,000 up front. Naturally, they are completely shocked. Fang Chao assumes he must have scraped the money from the Wang family's household expenses. Turning to Jia Yao, he asks her to confirm his suspicion, but she looks completely clueless. When Jia Yao doesn't respond, Fang Chao turns to the hotel employee and asks if our protagonist really paid that much. She confirms, and even adds that he tipped her an extra 10,000. Fang Chao is completely caught off guard when Jiao suddenly shouts that the money belongs to her family. He quickly pulls her aside and lowers his voice. The tip isn't the problem. The real issue is that even if our protagonist had secretly scraped household expenses for 3 years, it still shouldn't add up to that kind of money. Jiao thinks for a moment, then reveals that our protagonist used to visit her grandmother frequently to help take care of her dog. That makes her wonder, did he steal and sell one of her grandmother's antiques? Hearing this, Fang Chao immediately insists that she call home to confirm. The scene shifts back to the Wanhao Hotel. The guests are still discussing the expensive jade bracelet, waiting for the mysterious sender to show up. Even Miss Qin remains seated, wondering why the person hasn't appeared yet. Even with heavy traffic, the sender should have arrived by now. This thought makes her briefly suspect that our protagonist might actually be the mysterious sender. However, her suspicion is interrupted when she overhears Jiao talking on the phone with her mother. The mother happily asks about the divorce. Jiao quickly explains everything and urges her family to check her grandmother's collection immediately, suspecting that our protagonist must have stolen something. Her mother can't believe what she's hearing. Meanwhile, Miss Qin quietly breathes a sigh of relief. So he isn't some hidden big shot. With that conclusion in mind, she finally announces her departure, claiming she has urgent company matters to attend to. Before she leaves, the matriarch reminds her about the contract and entrusts the financing aspect to her. Miss Qin agrees and walks away. One by one, the remaining guests also leave, finally accepting that the mysterious sender doesn't plan to reveal himself. Once everyone is gone, the Wang matriarch demands to know what's happening. Jiao's mother explains that our protagonist booked an expensive hotel suite, and they suspect he may have stolen something to afford it. The matriarch immediately explodes in anger. Since they are still waiting for the mysterious sender, she orders her son to take some people to the Jishan villa and confirm what is missing. The scene shifts to the Jishan villa. Upon arrival, Shaoji suggests they split up to search more efficiently. He volunteers to check the antique room. After 20 minutes of searching, he finds nothing missing. When his uncle reports that nothing is missing on their side either, Shaoji freezes in shock. Our protagonist didn't steal anything. Confused, he suggests they all search one more time just to be sure. Once everyone leaves the room, a wicked smile appears on his face. He walks over to a watch case and picks it up. Inside is his grandfather's watch, a limited edition Richard Mille, with only 46 ever made. Planning to frame our protagonist, he rushes out of the room and loudly announces that a watch is missing. Jiao's mother's face instantly twists with rage. This must be how he could afford the presidential suite. With this in mind, Jiao's father reports the stolen watch to the matriarch. The old woman becomes furious, declaring that our protagonist deserves to have his hands chopped off. Turning to his nephew, he orders him to accompany the others to bring our protagonist back, afraid of being beaten again if the truth comes out. Shaoji quickly makes an excuse, saying he needs to visit the hospital first and will catch up later. Regardless, Jiao's father calls his daughter to ask if she's still at the hotel. She confirms and informs him that her grandfather's Richard Mille watch, worth over 5 million, is missing. She also tells Fang Chao about the development. Next, she demands our protagonist's room number. Fang Chao looks confused and asks what she plans to do. Stating the obvious, she says she wants to drag him out for stealing her grandfather's watch. Clearly, this girl thrives on drama. Fang Chao frowns, noticing the strange excitement in her tone. He wonders why she almost seems happy to have an excuse to see our protagonist again. He advises her not to cause a scene in the hotel. He can't afford that kind of trouble, and suggests they let the police handle it instead. She immediately calls him a coward and declares she'll handle it herself. Moments later, she arrives outside the presidential suite. She bangs on the door loudly, shouting that our protagonist is a thief and demanding he open up. The door swings open. Our protagonist stands there, freshly out of the shower, calmly asking if he can't even get some peace after the divorce. He raises an eyebrow when he sees her standing there speechless. Seeing him shirtless, her reaction says it all. Apparently, this is the first time she has seen our protagonist shirtless. Meanwhile, our boy notices her staring and asks what's wrong. She explains that her grandpa's watch is missing, while secretly thinking that if she had known he looked like this, she would have made him stay shirtless every summer. When our protagonist asks what she's talking about, she accuses him of acting clueless. Otherwise, how could he afford a presidential suite? At this point, our boy concludes that no matter what happens in the Wang family, it will somehow become his fault. So he addresses her formally and tells her he has never taken anything from her family. Of course, she is shocked to hear him speak so formally. Our protagonist used to address her with affection. The girl is already divorced, but still expects husband-level treatment. In response, she accuses him of trying to chase her away, thinking there must be another woman inside the room. Our protagonist thinks this girl is definitely crazy. He reminds her that they are divorced, so whether there is a woman inside or not is none of her business. He even threatens to call security, daring to reject her. She pulls out her phone and decides to get the police involved. On top of that, she tells our protagonist not to blame her if he ends up spending 15 years behind bars. She is in the middle of telling him to kneel when our protagonist has finally had enough. He wonders how, just because he once liked her, she thinks she can act this pathetic. Meanwhile, his ex-wife keeps ranting and throwing tantrums. On the other side, Grandma receives news that her granddaughter has called the police. Jiayao's mom wonders why her daughter would do such a thing. After all, family matters shouldn't involve outsiders. But since our protagonist is no longer part of their family, it is apparently fine. The only problem is that the Wang family might lose face because, as usual, their only concern is appearance. Later, at the Lake Hotel, the police arrive to confirm the report about a stolen watch. Jiayao agrees and even adds that our protagonist not only stole it but used the money to rent a presidential suite and hire an escort. Damn. The girl is a walking red flag. Our protagonist really dodged a bullet. Anyway, the officers turn to the receptionist and ask her to call our protagonist out of his room. But unfortunately for them, the guy is fast asleep. His ex-wife sees this and assumes it's fear and guilt that are stopping him from answering, even her calls. Because of this, the officers decide to check for themselves. Later, our protagonist slowly wakes up to the sound of knocking on his door. Once he opens it, the leading officer asks if he is Ye Chen. He then introduces himself as the chief officer and says they received a report about a stolen watch. Our boy calmly replies that he has never taken anything. The chief officer doesn't want to be rude. He knows our protagonist was once a delivery guy, and from his ex-wife's statement, he supposedly didn't leave the marriage with a single cent after the divorce. Before the officer can ask where he got the money, our protagonist asks for a moment. He walks back inside his room and picks up a document. Handing it to the chief, he explains that it is the equity transfer contract of Huasheng Group, and he is currently the largest shareholder. He even shows his business card, confirming that he is the CEO of the company. The chief officer also notices it's an expensive black card inlaid with diamonds. Quietly, his partner whispers that our protagonist could be faking it. Seeking further confirmation, the chief demands to check his information on SkyEye. For context, SkyEye is similar to the Forbes ranking system. Hearing this, our protagonist reveals that the founder of SkyEye is actually his second brother's college classmate. Since he hasn't officially taken office yet, he had his name removed from the list. Because of this, he casually calls the CEO of SkyEye and informs him about the situation. Within seconds, our protagonist asks the chief to check the information again. The moment they search Huasheng Group, their faces turn stunned. Even while staring at his name on the screen, the chief wonders aloud if he might be working with a hacker. Our protagonist isn't the type to show off, but since they keep doubting him, he shows them his phone. On the screen is his bank account information, displaying the recent transfer to the hotel, along with 10 billion casually sitting there as his balance. Our protagonist is thankful for the prenup he signed before the marriage, and his wife wasn't aware of his assets. He tells the cops that with this much money in his account, does he really need to steal a mere 5 million watch? Out of curiosity, the chief asks if he is a rich young master and wonders why he married into the Wang family in the first place. Our protagonist replies that it was an arranged marriage, so he naturally had no choice. In addition, he wants everything to be kept a secret and doesn't want to get involved with the Wang family anymore. The cops promise not to disclose any information while thinking to themselves that rich people really do things differently. With that in mind, they leave while apologizing for disturbing his rest. 2 minutes later, at the lobby, the officers suggest they properly check for the watch again, insisting that our protagonist didn't take it. Fang Chao and Jia Yao wonder how that is possible. His ex-wife asks that if he didn't steal it, then how did he manage to book a presidential suite? When she calls him trash and a delivery guy, The officer grows pale in shock. A delivery guy casually having 10 billion sitting in his account. That's wild. Anyway, they tell Jiao that she needs to provide concrete evidence if they are to arrest our protagonist. Something like footage of him stealing it or a receipt showing he sold the watch. In addition, the chief suggests she stop speaking badly about our protagonist. Even if they are currently divorced, there should still be some respect. She responds that she was the one who initiated the divorce. The chief's partner is shocked and asks for confirmation. Jiao confirms it and then asks if our protagonist showed any signs of regret. The man doesn't want to say much, only giving her a thumbs up, as if to say, if there were an award for best screw-up, she would easily take first place. Before leaving, she asks if there was any woman in the room. The chef responds negatively. No one else was in the room except our protagonist. Hearing this, Jiao thinks to herself that he still loves her. The girl is really delusional. However, Fang Chao finds it puzzling why the police were speaking about our protagonist in such a respectful tone. Meanwhile, Jiao receives a call from her cousin, Xiaoji, who asks if our protagonist was arrested. She replies negatively, saying the police need evidence. Xiaoji asks what kind of evidence. She explains either a video recording of him stealing the watch or a receipt of him selling it. Xiaoji realizes the first option isn't possible, so he chooses to focus on the second. He promises Jiao that he will find the receipt and the person our protagonist supposedly sold the watch to, and definitely send him to jail before hanging up. Because of this, Jiao begins to feel anxious and wonders what she would do if our protagonist actually ends up in jail. Fang Chao notices her expression and instantly gets an idea. Moving closer, he suggests they spend the night at the hotel. In response, he receives a slap. He couldn't even handle our protagonist, yet he's thinking about sleeping around? The audacity. Fang Chao becomes furious at our protagonist for ruining his moment. Just then, his friend arrives and comments on Jiao's appearance. Suddenly, Fang Chao grabs him and instructs him to inform him immediately when our protagonist leaves the hotel. The very next morning, our protagonist exits the elevator. His appearance catches the attention of the receptionists present. He is no longer wearing rags. Now he exudes an aura, that domineering CEO vibe. The moment he leaves, Fang Chao is informed immediately. 20 minutes later, our protagonist arrives at the Huasheng group. It's quite ironic. The previous day, Miss Qin said she would blacklist him in the entire Yancheng city. Our protagonist naturally wonders what kind of face she will make once she sees him today. At the same time, Fang Chao receives news about our protagonist's current location. He wonders what our protagonist could be doing at the Huasheng group. Thinking he has ulterior motives, he decides to call Miss Qin to gain some goodwill. When she answers, she demands to know who is speaking. Fang Chao introduces himself and reminds her how they met. In response, she asks why he is calling so early in the morning. So he informs her that our protagonist is currently at her company, and he is worried that he may have ulterior motives. Hearing this, she smiles slightly and assures him not to be concerned, saying security can handle it and that he can't possibly get into the building. That's when Fang Chao reveals that our protagonist already bypassed security with a key card and is currently inside the building. She panics and wonders how he managed to get the company key card. Expressing his thoughts, Fang Chao reminds her that since our protagonist supposedly stole a watch, it's possible he could have bribed someone in exchange for the key card. He tells her to be careful, pretending to be concerned. In response, she thanks him and decides to send someone to check immediately. Fang Chao is just about to offer help, but the call ends abruptly. Meanwhile, Miss Qin calls her secretary and demands that she head to the office immediately. Half an hour later, her secretary, Miss Zhou, appears. The guards greet her casually. She politely responds to their greeting while heading inside. As she walks in, the staff begin gossiping about her. One of them even comments that she seems slightly inferior to the vice president. Moments later, Miss Zhou enters the CEO's office. Upon seeing our protagonist, she asks how he managed to get in. In response, our protagonist calmly asks who she is. She formally introduces herself as the president's personal secretary. This leaves our protagonist slightly puzzled. Seeing that Miss Zhou is the secretary, he had expected someone else, perhaps a man for the role. Before he can continue thinking, Miss Zhou interrupts him, asking what he's thinking about and why he hasn't answered any of her questions. Finally, our protagonist introduces himself as the CEO of the Huasheng Group. Realizing her mistake, she immediately apologizes. Now it makes sense why he has access to the company, and even the CEO's office in the first place. Our protagonist understands that this must be the doing of the Wang family. Regardless, he tells her to return to work. He has heard that Miss Chin is known as the #1 beauty of the company, so he insists that she come to his office the moment she arrives. Shortly after, Miss Zhou calls Miss Chin to report the situation. Miss Chin is surprised that the mysterious CEO has finally shown up at the company. She ends the call, saying she is on her way. Moments later, she enters the company. Her secretary approaches and informs her that our protagonist wants to meet her. She notices the female employees gathered around and asks why everyone is so early. Apparently, the news has already spread throughout the company. It's only natural for the girls to be excited to see the handsome CEO. This piques Miss Chin's interest. Her personal secretary describes our protagonist as someone in his 20s with a face like a celebrity. Miss Chin is surprised. After all, she reached her vice president position in her 30s, which was already considered impressive. Regardless, she insists that everyone behave properly so our protagonist doesn't look down on them. In response, Miss Zhou jokingly reveals that our protagonist came early intentionally just to see the #1 beauty of the company. Miss Chin tells her to stop talking nonsense. In all her years in the business circle, there hasn't been a man she couldn't handle. After all, our protagonist is just a young boy in her eyes. Exactly. There's no problem she can't solve. The workers even remember how she once dealt effortlessly with a difficult client that everyone else avoided. Because of this, they believe they truly need to learn from her. As if reading their minds, Miss Chin informs them that she will leave the door slightly open, basically inviting them to watch how she plans to humble the new CEO. The female staff become excited. Front row seats secured. Miss Chin thinks to herself that if she manages to control our protagonist, her position in the company will become even more solid. But unfortunately for her, today is the day reality hits hard. When she finally enters the office and informs him that she has come as requested, she observes him closely. From the side profile alone, our protagonist looks extremely handsome. She even feels a strange sense of déjà vu. Meanwhile, everyone outside watches closely, eager to see how she plans to make him kneel. But in the next second, Miss Chin's face drains of color. The mysterious CEO standing before her is actually our protagonist. Her previous confidence vanishes instantly. Without hesitation, she drops to her knees. Now the group watching from outside are left completely stunned, wondering why the vice president is the one kneeling instead. Meanwhile, at the same time, our protagonist approaches her with a calm yet serious expression. Reading the room, the female workers quickly leave. Nobody wants to be caught in CEO-level tension. Seeing her defeated expression, Ye Chen teases her, asking why she's kneeling when they just met. Meanwhile, she thinks that if he doesn't like it, he should at least help her up, while internally cursing the Wang family for putting her in such an embarrassing situation. Regardless, she apologizes for what happened the previous day. Still teasing her, our protagonist reminds her that she once claimed she was his girlfriend and that he was the one who confessed his love first. As he steps closer, he finally understands why so many men go crazy over her. Looking flustered, she apologizes once again. Our protagonist ignores the tension and helps her up. Then he warns her to close the door, since the staff might misunderstand what just happened. The last thing he needs is wild office rumors, but he's still not done messing with her. He reminds her that at the party, she promised to cut off his livelihood. Now that he is her CEO, he asks if she still plans to blacklist him. In response, she admits her mistake and attributes it to her short-sighted judgment. She says she understands if he is upset. If he wants to scold her, punish her, or even fire her, she will accept it. Our protagonist silently observes her behavior. Most people would start shifting blame or making excuses. However, Miss Chin doesn't panic. She takes full responsibility. Indeed, this woman is not simple. Because of this, our protagonist tells her he has no intention of firing her. After all, the previous day, she was the only one who gave him a way out. If he hadn't been the CEO, he would have undoubtedly accepted her offer. Feeling relieved, she thanks him and promises to serve the company loyally. Suddenly, our protagonist's expression turns serious. He explains that while he can forgive her, the rest of the people present at the party are a different matter. Hearing this, Miss Chin insists he drop the formal title when addressing her. Our protagonist replies by instructing her to gather all the information concerning everyone at the party who cut ties with him. She agrees to the task and thinks to herself that the business circle in Yancheng is about to be shaken because of this man. 30 minutes later, she provides the documents. First on the list, Fang Chao. Seeing this name, our protagonist remembers how his ex-wife compared him to Fang Chao and called him trash. With that in mind, he asks about the Fang family's assets in Yancheng. Miss Chin explains that the Fang family is considered a first-tier family in the city. 2 years ago, they might have had assets worth 10 billion. However, recently their finances have shrunk badly, and now they are similar to the Wang family, around 3 billion in assets. Speaking of the Wang family, she admits that she received favors from them in exchange for funding their real estate contract. But if her CEO dislikes the arrangement, she will drop the entire deal immediately. Secretly, she can't help thinking that Jiao is unbelievably foolish for choosing Fang Chao over someone like Ye Chen. Fortunately for them, our protagonist isn't petty. He calmly states that business is business. There is no room for emotion. He will honor the contract, as long as it is profitable. Miss Chin offers to present the proposal herself, but our protagonist insists on accompanying her. At the same time, Fang Chao is hoping to see our protagonist get caught and receive his imaginary reward. However, his thoughts are interrupted when a female staff member calls out to him, leaving him confused. She approaches him and reminds him about the night they supposedly spent together. On the surface, he pretends to remember. Inwardly, he thinks he must have been extremely drunk to bring such a low-class woman home. The audacity of this man. Still seeing an opportunity, he asks about President Chin, claiming he suspects she might be in danger. The woman leads him toward the executive lounge. He arrives just in time to overhear female employees discussing how Miss Chin suddenly knelt before the mysterious CEO. Regardless, he approaches Miss Zhou and asks about her boss. In response, she asks if he has an appointment. Fang Chao ignores her and rushes forward anyway. Bursting into the CEO's office, he is shocked to see the so-called useless son-in-law standing there confidently while Miss Qin stands respectfully nearby. Speaking of Miss Qin, she is equally shocked to see him. Enraged, she demands to know what he is doing there. But Fang Chao completely misunderstands the situation. He thinks he arrived just in time to stop Yi Chen from taking revenge. Turning to Miss Qin, he arrogantly insists that she shouldn't be afraid after all. He is here now. That only makes her even more furious. That slap was indeed satisfying. Miss Qin coldly demands to know who gave him the right to address her so casually by name. Fang Chao looks at Miss Qin in confusion, wondering why she and the other staff are acting surprisingly calm. Turning to our protagonist, he thinks he has figured it out. He claims that our protagonist came to beg and become her bodyguard. This assumption comes from the conversation he overheard, but clearly he didn't listen properly. Because of this misunderstanding, he begins insulting our protagonist, calling him a dog even while he's dressed in a bodyguard suit. Meanwhile, our protagonist just stares at him like he's watching a clown perform on stage. Clearly, this guy only thinks with his lower half. Meanwhile, Miss Chin's secretary quietly moves closer to the office door to listen in on the argument. At the same time, Miss Qin slaps Fang Chao for the second time. She then calls Miss Zhou and tells her to bring security, and perhaps the cleaning crew to remove this trash who is spouting nonsense. Fang Chao becomes furious. He can't believe Miss Chin dared to humiliate him, the young master of the Fang family, in front of everyone. He is dragged out while swearing to get revenge on our protagonist. Outside the Huasheng group building, he vents his anger as he gets into his car. He calls Miss Qin Hongyan a shameless woman who rose to the top by sleeping with men and swears to get back at her too. But first, he needs to inform the Wang family about this new development. Later, at the Wang family house, the Wang matriarch is shocked to hear the news that our protagonist is now Miss Qin's bodyguard. Fang Chao confirms it, saying he saw it with his own eyes. He even claims he saw our protagonist fetching documents for Miss Qin. Hearing this, the entire family finds it hard to believe, but Fang Chao isn't done. He spreads rumors that our protagonist even knelt and begged Miss Qin for forgiveness. His ex-wife becomes furious. How dare our protagonist kneel before another woman? Thinking back, she remembers that she gave him multiple chances to apologize, but in the 3 years of their marriage, he never once knelt before her. Seeing her reaction, Wang Yuan teases her, suggesting that maybe the reason he never knelt was because her charm wasn't enough. Her cousins immediately join in, mocking her. Wang Yuan even brags that if it were her, she would make our protagonist kneel before her every single day. She snaps back, saying she was simply too good to him. That's why he never knelt. Turning to her grandmother, she suggests cutting Miss Qin off from the family. The old matriarch stares at her granddaughter as if she has lost her mind. As a result, she receives a slap. Furious, Grandma Wang asks if she needs to remind this foolish girl that their family depends on Miss Chin's financing, especially the 70 million needed for their real estate contract. Seeing this, Xiaoji's father comments that Jia Yao is simply jealous of Miss Chin. However, in terms of capability, she can't even compare to her. In response, Jia Yao throws a tantrum like a spoiled child. Her grandmother warns her not to do anything foolish. Turning to her son, the matriarch demands to speak with Miss Chin immediately. During the call, the Wang matriarch starts by asking if it's true that our protagonist has really become her bodyguard. She expresses confusion, especially since she had already publicly cut him off. Miss Chin explains that things are different now, and apologizes politely, thinking to herself that the old woman might have a heart attack if she finds out her discarded son-in-law is now her boss. However, Grandma Wang isn't upset at all. In fact, she seems grateful. She only regrets not gifting our protagonist to Miss Chin sooner. Switching topics, she asks about the contract. Miss Chin reveals that she has spoken to her CEO about it. He is interested but wants to learn more before moving forward. The Wang matriarch is surprised and quickly asks if she can send her son to meet the CEO face-to-face to discuss the details. Miss Chin agrees to arrange the meeting. Turning to Xiaoji's father, she assigns him the task of negotiating the contract and making a good impression on behalf of the family. He confidently promises to complete the task. However, now that our protagonist is Miss Kin's bodyguard, her son suggests that they should drop the matter of the stolen watch. The Wang matriarch immediately refuses. They must continue searching for evidence and make sure our protagonist spends some time in jail, or at least use it as leverage to gain favor with Miss Chin. Hearing this, her grandson reveals that he knows the person our protagonist allegedly sold the watch to. She smiles and tells him to gather the evidence, believing Miss Chin won't react strongly if they go after our protagonist. Now turning to Jia Yao's parents, she complains and calls them useless to the Wang family, especially Jia Yao. The matriarch even says she wishes she could swap Jia Yao's face with her cousin Wang Yuan's, because Jia Yao is worthless. Completely fed up with the humiliation, Jia Yao runs off. She drives away in her Audi, determined to teach our protagonist a lesson for making her lose face in front of her family. Arriving at the Huasheng Group parking lot, Jia Yao is stunned. Apparently, this is the first time she has seen our protagonist wearing a suit. She can't believe our protagonist suddenly started dressing this handsomely right after the divorce. Because of this, she snaps and calls him shameless for becoming Miss Chin Hongyan's dog. Miss Chin immediately realizes that the spoiled brat of the Wang family has arrived. Jia Yao wastes no time accusing the protagonist of senseless pride and asks why he didn't beg for forgiveness. She reminds him that she gave him multiple chances, yet he refused. Our protagonist is furious. How dare she ask him to beg after what she did? He asks her whether she truly expected him to beg after he caught her cheating on him. But she doesn't even consider the cheating the issue. Her main problem is that she gave him a chance to apologize at her grandmother's birthday party, and he refused. Worst of all, he even knelt before another woman for mercy. While they were married, he had never knelt before her. She claims he embarrassed her. Our protagonist calmly tells her that kneeling before a faithful wife isn't wrong, but kneeling before a cheating wife is a different story. Deep down, he thinks he is partly to blame because he spoiled her too much. Jia Yao quickly corrects him, saying she was the one who was too lenient. In fact, her entire family believes it was her fault for not keeping him in check. As a live-in son-in-law, she says, he should have been treated no better than a dog. Seeing our protagonist trying to hold back his anger, Miss Chin suddenly slaps his ex-wife. She is furious. Jia Yao was the one who cheated, yet instead of reflecting on her mistake, she is shifting the blame. Miss Chin demands to know if she isn't the least bit ashamed. Still stunned, Jia Yao asks if Miss Chin really hit her. Miss Chin makes it clear that she's simply giving her the lesson her parents failed to teach her. Jia Yao looks at our protagonist, expecting him to do something. Diffusing the situation, our protagonist tells Miss Chin to stop. Then he turns to his ex-wife and tells her he wants nothing more to do with her. However, she refuses to back down. She insists that he resign from his position and stop being Miss Chin's bodyguard. Our protagonist finds this amusing, while Miss Chin flips her middle finger and offers to pay him 500,000 a year. Scratch that, she adds another zero. His ex-wife is shocked that Miss Chin plans to pay him 5 million a year. Desperate to stop him, Jia Yao reveals that her cousin Xiaoji found evidence accusing him of stealing the watch. She tells him to resign immediately. She adds that if he works for her instead and listens to her, she will make sure her cousin drops the entire matter. Our protagonist thanks her for the offer but refuses to become her personal bodyguard. He simply doesn't want to stand by and watch her sleep with other men. As for Xiaojie, if he really has evidence, he should come and sue him. Someone like our protagonist definitely has top lawyers lining up for him. Watching them leave, his ex-wife calls him a jerk for following Miss Chin, especially since she is already dating the CEO. Unbeknownst to her, he is that CEO. The scene shifts to the dangerous part of town, Yuncheng's 7th Street, where the poor live alongside powerful figures. Everyone there knows of a dangerous man called Brother Melon. Rumor has it that if he's carrying a bag, it either contains a knife or someone's head. And that very Melon is taken by surprise when he sees the legitimate heir of the Wang family. Xiaoji gets straight to business and offers him a deal. In exchange for selling his grandfather's watch, worth 5 million at a discount, he wants Melon to testify that he bought the watch from our protagonist. To his shock, Melon guesses that the man in question is the same person who beat him up. Xiaoji notes that his guess is correct, calling our protagonist trash and a useless live-in son-in-law who deserves to be sent to prison. Hearing this, Melon responds that unfortunately, he can't get involved. Boss Liu warned him never to interfere in family matters. If they reconcile in the future, he would end up as the villain. In response, Xiaojie reveals that our protagonist has already been kicked out of the family. He even demands to know who this Boss Liu is and why Melon listens to him. One of the men shouts that Boss Liu is Melon's superior. Brother Melon adds that without his boss, he wouldn't be where he is today. Xiaoji then offers to sell the watch for 4 million. Melon shakes his head, making it clear he will follow his boss's orders. Desperate, Xiaoji lowers the price again. Hearing this, Melon reveals a wicked smile and says that while his boss told him not to meddle in family matters, he never told him to turn down money. Meanwhile, the scene shifts back to our protagonist. Inside the car, he warns Miss Chin that she absolutely cannot lay hands on his ex-wife again without his permission.